is a piston that can slide up and down. Under the piston are some BBs. Now when I turn on this motor and touch the cylinder to the vibrating bit, the BBs are sent jumping. See how the continual bombardment by these very small BBs holds the large piston up. It certainly seems that a continual bombardment by small objects can hold up a much larger object. Here is a similar cylinder and piston, but this piston has no BBs under it. Now I'm going to blow air in under the piston. And close the valve so that none of the air can escape. Now, what's holding the piston up? The piston is being held up by air, but it acts exactly the same way as it did when it was held up by the bombardment of the tiny BBs. It certainly looks as if air might be made up of tiny invisible pellets or particles far smaller than the BBs. Something we can't see is holding the piston up. Now this is one piece of circumstantial evidence that suggests very tiny invisible particles are bombarding the piston and holding it up just as the BBs did. This leads us to think that air may be made up of tiny particles. Now, smoke from the match is inside the chamber. The bright spots are particles of smoke magnified so that we see them 100 times bigger than they really are. Now, what's making them dance around? What's pushing them? Well, I believe they're being pushed around by tiny moving particles that are too small to be seen even through the microscope. Water appears to come out of the tap in a continuous stream, but I say it's made up of tiny particles which we call molecules. This is a chemical made up of small individual chunks of material which we will be able to see only with the aid of a microscope. If we mix some of this chemical with the water, and put a drop of it on a slide, we then can use a microscope to see what's going on inside the drop of water. There it is again. Something is pushing the little chunks of chemical around. What's making them move like that? It seems as if the only reasonable answer is to assume that water is made up of molecules that are moving.